Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of my Comprehending Consciousness series, where I am working to put out some quick educational videos that will briefly run through some commonly used topics from the consciousness community or the New Age, right? So if you are newly waking up or new to this kind of spiritual world, welcome, and I hope these videos will be enlightening and also provide only just a beginning for you. Be sure to understand these topics are iceberg terms, right? I'm giving you a tour of the tip of the iceberg here and letting you know this is here, this is what we see. But no, there's a giant body of knowledge there resting under the water. And it's really up to you at your own pace and at your own time to do those deep dives for yourself, and for your own knowledge base, and for your soul evolution. Because having as much information to choose from and make decisions based on is where more wise information comes from, right? So basically, this series, I'm hoping, is going to be an inspiration for people to kind of come up with their own working definitions and of these words and terms. So today, on episode 5, I'm going to be talking about the matrix, and in particular, the 3D matrix. If you've never seen the movies, I highly suggest taking a watch at them, because even though, they are mainstream Hollywood productions, right? And they are geared to set the collective mind in a certain way and to showcase information in a way, there are nuggets of truth in everything. And if you can open your blinders up and learn to view incoming information with an open mind and with as little bias as possible, you really will open your field up for comparing new concepts and ideas, and leaving wiggle room for yourself for later to maybe say, okay, I don't totally get this right now, but it could be of use later, right? And in many of these videos, I go over the analogy of trying to teach calculus or even long division to a kindergartner, right? It doesn't compute. There's levels to consciousness awareness, just like there's levels to learning mathematics, right? You can't expect a kindergartner, although they might understand 2 cookies and 2 cookies, I have 4 cookies now. They totally get that. And yeah, if there's a friend with them, they could take those 4 cookies and divide them fairly with each other and see that 2 and 2 divides out back to 4. But to ever get them to understand to do math on long division on a piece of paper or a chalkboard, or to even get that real logical knowledge working in there, it's not at their level yet. You could go a whole school day screaming at a kid about long division or fractions or calculus or whatever, they just still won't get it. It can go right through and over because their level of consciousness just is not there yet. And so this is like a sweet, friendly reminder to resonate where you're at and allow your conscious awareness to rest where it is and allow things that are coming in to pop in. Don't feel like you have to understand everything all at once. Don't feel like you have to be preparing yourself for calculus later on, Enjoy the kindergarten classroom and incorporate all the things that you're seeing there, and really use your imagination and your curiosity to discover and allow that space for newness. Because I think especially it's a construct of the 3D matrix, right? When we talk about the 3D matrix here, it's really, we're all born into it. And so it's pretty hard to not resonate with some parts of like the mind control of the preconceived and preloaded thought constructs that we're impressed with coming into this world. And yes, and I'm saying there are layers and there are bubble worlds. There are totally categories that segment off sections of humanity into culture, space, into societal different beliefs, political beliefs, you know, the world of academia, the corporate world, the medical world, you know, media, Hollywood world. There are levels to this, right? And I say it's like in every episode, there's levels to the game, right? And so learning what level you're at, getting full awareness of that, and trying your best to work within your means and get as much out of every interaction, every new piece of information, every video you watch, you know, take as much in as you can. Also relax and don't feel rushed, you know, here's duality at work at both times. Take in as much as you can, but also reside in comfortability. Know that you are fully supported and you have eternity to work through these things. So don't feel rushed that you need to come to any conclusions. There are no conclusions here, right? That's another construct of the matrix, that preconceived deadline hanging over all of us, the carrot on the stick, the finish line, the end game, the corner office, the penthouse, the condo, the picket fence house, you know, all of these belittling and really rushing you, restrictive ideas that they push onto us. Because it's so important to remember that if you push an agenda, if you can influence enough, then you have more probability in your desired outcome, right? The matrix has a desired outcome. The 3D matrix is a construct of negative orientation, which has been co-created by negatively oriented beings who seek to constrict and control, to siphon off energy for the use of the system, for the self. The system is the self. And we need to really remember that the matrix in itself is a system seeking to serve itself, its own survivability, its own maintenance, right? And so when we have these bubbling up, waking up feelings, and we want to serve others, we feel love and higher vibrations, and we seek higher understanding to connect and enlighten, right? We are rising from 3, 4, and 5 densities here. Now, quickly, the matrix, right? And let's remember that the word matrix, right, it's not from the movie, and the author didn't make up the matrix. If you're a math geek or a science geek or you love statistics, then you already know matrices, right? They are a beautiful way to organize information because we have like a box, right, where we have options, probabilities on either end, and we can join the statistical probabilities of outcomes into each box based on the parameters that are set, right, on the X and Y when we're visually looking at information, right? And it's important to see that great organization and to understand that simulation theory, all of these theories, they have this working knowledge, right, of, for some reason, right, you know, I'm pushing 10 minutes and I don't want to get too much into how the parameters and the structuring evolved, why, the purpose and who and all of that, because that's a whole other video in itself, and I think I will be approaching that next, but I do want to quickly talk about duality before I introduce the false structuring, things like AI and the archonic consciousness, right? Negatively oriented entities and beings. Before we even get into that kind of thing, it's important to understand that the matrix, the idea of matrices, of comparing probabilities into a structure, right, is highly important in our world, right? And if you think about the universe as the whole, right, and we can get into the creator mindset here to try to view as much as we can the circle encompassing the yin-yang, right? We can see outside of duality and the big picture of contrast, the struggling and seeking of harmony in the middle, to seeing the circle and the harmony that really is residing outside the whole thing and has been there the whole time because it is the whole. The observer is viewing something whole. So, you know, there's a wholeness here. And that is the matrix, right? And within the matrix, we have the organic matrix and we have the inorganic matrix, okay? And it's also important just to get an idea here. I'm talking about the slice, the layering of the cake here of third dimension, third, fourth density, right? And I'll get into dimensions versus densities in another talk, and we can really get into what that kind of verbiage means. But most people understand 3D, right? You know, matter is 3D. We live in 4D because we add just not length, height, and width, but we also have time incorporated into our structuring here. So people think we live in a 3D world, but really we live in the 4D world because we have time embodying into that structuring as well. We have a place setting, a field, that all things with form, with 3D, are taking place within, right? And that adds the fourth dimension in there. And densities are slightly different. Densities are vibratory frequency measurements, okay? They're not about mass and matter form, or whatever you choose to use those words as. I don't really like the word matter, but whatever. So I'm talking about, and it's important to remember, our world, reality, is multi-dimensional, right? We live multidimensionally, and every density is stacked inside the dimensions, and the dimensions are holding everything together. Much like, you know, a layered cake here. And so when I'm talking about the 3D matrix, it only occurs in third dimension reality here. And there's a specific reasoning for that, because it is harmonious and fertile ground for duality, for contrast to work within, to operate within. And so when the matrix, when I'm talking about the controlling thing that humanity is born into right now, the overlay, the inorganic matrix, it is a structuring that's been imposed upon us and upon our regular organic matrix. And so I'm almost about to hit 15 minutes, and so really quickly I just want to give an idea of working here so that you can begin to identify within yourself and within your own world where you can resonate with organic matrix, tap into that truth, and then where you can discern and learn to test and feel out the inorganic matrix and when it's crushing in on you. Or I like to view it like a house of cards, right? Or a really, really crappy made build it yourself kind of house where they've pretended that, you know, they built this artisan craftsmanship $1 million home, but it's like a flimsy house of cards put together by a jackhack, you know? And yeah, that door looks innately carved and beautiful from across the room, but as we're getting closer to the door, well, it's actually has no symmetry to it. It actually has no organic pattern to it. You can see the deception the closer that you get, the mistakes, the distortions, the unevenness, right? The asymmetry in it. And then when you touch the door and you want to actually go walk through it because they told you there's another room in there or whatever, the doorknob just falls right off, or the whole frame falls out, or it's super creaky and crappy and you've got to jerk it open. And you're like, wait a minute, you told me this was the finest craftsmanship. You told me you put all your effort into this place. It is a lie. And as soon as you test it, it will fall apart because it's a lie. Truth stands. It stays. It has holding power. There is inevitability to truth. It comes through always. And so for last working point here, it's important to remember that when you see out there in reality anything that is only helped along by humans, anything that operates or functions completely on its own, separate from human interaction, separate from energetic thought or real kinetic energy, actual production to be put into it to be done, when you find those things which just work, just happen, they just go on, you know that's natural, that is organic, that is the original template. Truth in our third, fourth, fifth dimension that we're sitting in, okay? Because it will always come back, it will always reappear. Now, the inorganic matrix, it has to be maintained. It has to be kept up with. If it's not, it will fall apart. Entropy, for example, right? And scientists love to think that everything functions with entropy and everything just would fall apart without human conscious thought put into it. Clearly, we know that's not true because, I mean, how would everything be functioning here? It would not be. And so, if it takes human effort to be put into, to operate, then it is not original. It is created. It is man-made. And when things are man-made, it's a huge area for distortions. And if you are not careful in observing, your reality, you could easily be tricked into thinking man-made things can be true. Yes, man-made things can represent truth at some level, but there is always distortion, whether it's words, ideas, feelings that come through. And so only from within and the resonance of this knowing does truth really start to be uncovered, right? And then you dig away at all of the distortions and you seek that truth within you. That's the only way that we find what is real, right? So yeah, if you do in your own world all day, every day, start to think about, okay, you know, where am I being infringed upon? Where are, structures, imposing on me? Or do I feel a dissonance coming in, an interruption in my field? Start to notice what your field feels like. What is your, harmonious place of resonance within your own energetic body? What does the inorganic versus the organic feel like to you? Where do you feel that you naturally fall on the spectrum? Because as we have to remember too, yes, this is a multidimensional layering, but it's also happening in a spectrum and alignment of polarities, negative and positive, I'll get into that in another topic when I talk about alignments, but yeah, just to keep it quick. I'm hitting 20 minutes, so I hope this video on the 3D matrix has been eye-opening and has at least gotten you a little out of the cheesiness of Hollywood, and to realize that there is a real working happening in this place and plane, and there is also an imposed happening agenda taking place. And as soon as you can exactly find where you resonate personally with these things that are taking place, you know, it will really help you align better and make better choices for what kind of future that you want to be seeing in your reality. Because it's important, and I'm going to end with this, is that ascension of Earth is taking place, and Earth itself is shifting higher away from 3D to ever even be in a realm of possibility. We're shifting here. So the possibilities for 3D to really be able to harness people back in and keep the negative is coming away. And we see the split happening in the world, right? So no, in this split, you have a life choice happening here. You can certainly choose to stick with 3D matrix. It will always be there. It will be there in a plane of existence happening. Yes, it's crumbling in certain ways and things. If you choose so to see and rise, it will be gone. It will not be able to energetically function as 4D, 5D really start to be the prominent energies, because they feel wonderful, they're high vibe, they're great, they're interconnected and seeking acceptance and full sight of knowledge, right? So we will have other systems, and maybe there'll be another inorganic sort of hijacked matrix plucked on top of 5D up there. I cannot say for sure, but as my understanding and realm of duality and contrast have been shown and working, I see it as layering, and the strongest, thickest part of this cake layering is that third, fourth dimensional area. And it has just been infested and infected, but we are rising, and if you choose to rise, you will, and you will align with those higher things, and the matrix will not be able to entrap you. It doesn't want people like us. They can't harness our energy because we're offering positive service to others with unconditional love. And that kind of energy is of no use to self-serving systems that need that crunchy, hard, dense, negative energy to suck in, because it's in alignment with their resonance, right? Because they are low vibe, they must incorporate low vibe in order to use it. And if you are not offering that type of service, the matrix will kick you out. And so I hope this is sort of giving you a different view about what the term matrix and 3D can mean. And I hope you'll join me for next episode, where I am going to talk about duality and more about what that exactly means. And after that, we'll step into the archons and negative agendas and negative orientation and stuff like that. So I hope you'll join me for those episodes. If you're new, check out 1 through 4 that's already out there. And I hope you have a beautiful morning or afternoon wherever in the world you are. Thank you again so much for joining me and for your service to the collective. I hope that you'll join me next time.